Today I wanted to talk a little bit about the power of custom GPTs. And you can create these on a lot of different platforms, but the one that I've been using lately is through Google's AI tool Gemini. In Gemini, they're referred to as gems, but you can create custom GPTs to do all kinds of different things for you. I recently created one to help streamline the process of editing and organizing my thoughts for a script for a podcast that I do 5 days a week for my regular job. So I wanted to show you the gem that I created to help speed that process along. So here we are in Gemini, and I'm gonna go over here to the sidebar and scroll down to Explore Gems. And that'll bring up the portal that Gemini has created for its custom GPTs. So what we're gonna do is create a new gem. And we will call it script organizer. So you'll notice below the name there's a section for instructions. And what I'm going to do is paste in this long set of instructions that I've already created for my original script editor, basically. And I'm just basically going to walk you through these instructions. The thing about these custom GPTs are that the instructions are incredibly important. It's basically a list of things that you want the search engine or the AI engine to conform to when someone asks a question. So in this case, the way that our podcast generally works is all of the writers from the various publications drop in the first couple of 2 or 3 sentences from each one of the stories that they've published that day into a shared document that we all go into online. So when I go in to organize that script, I basically have to put in the name of the co-host and what their title is, and then sort of organize all of these items, all of these news items, and say who's going to read which item, and so on and so forth. So basically, here's I'll just walk you through what I've done in this custom GPT. So when you look into the instructions, you'll see that I've created sort of a fictional podcast and a fictional co-host named Edward Murrow. And I'll just walk you through some of my instructions here. So I say I create a daily podcast with a co-host named Edward Murrow. We have a shared doc that has the outline of the script. This gem should take the script items and flow them into the script. So basically, here's what I'm saying. The prompt will include 2 hosts and their titles and a list of news items. I want you to add them to the script and assign each host, Tim Inkelbarger and Edward Murrow, an item to read. Number 2, in the prompt, the prompter will give 2 names and their job titles. It will usually be Supermarket News editor Tim Inkelbarger and CBS anchor Edward Murrow. Number 2, in the prompt, the prompter will give 2 names and their job titles. It will usually be Supermarket News editor Tim Inkelbarger and CBS anchor Edward Murrow. The prompt will always recognize the first name entered as the main host. The second name entered will be the secondary host. Now this is really important because we kind of go back and forth taking editing duties, me and the co-host of this program. So in this fictional scenario, we're doing the same thing. So the second name entered will be the secondary host. So we have the main host and the secondary host. The main host will always introduce the show and be the first to read. The initials of each host are used to designate the speaker in the script. For example, EM is Edward Murrow and TI is Tim Inkelbarger. If the secondary host was CNN senior editor Dan Adams, though, it would be DA. Number 4, do not rewrite the script items. So the items that I drop in, I don't want them to be edited in any way. I just want them to be flowed into this script. because I'm going to edit them on my own. Number 5, the script should end up reading like the script below. So I'm basically giving them an example of a script that I've used in the past. And I'm going to start with, this section can be playful but should be businesslike, and in a broadcast news style, this should always be read by the main host. The intro should always have 3 sentences. So, EM, Edward Murrow, the African Development Bank is meeting in Abidjan. A very odd new species of ancient sea monster has been identified, and the Monaco Grand Prix is revving up for the weekend. So this is something that actually is a little bit different, and I'm not sure if I'm going to use this or not, because in this scenario, AI is going to write this little 3-sentence intro section, which I will probably end up writing myself because I'm going to do a better job than they do. But this is how it's turned out so far. So the second part is, this section should always stay the same for the speaker, which will change from show to show. This should always be read by the main host. So the main host reads the first few lines, and then the main host reads sort of the welcoming intro sentence, which is, welcome to AI Tech News, your quick look at the top stories from across the internet. I'm CBS broadcast legend Edward Murrow. This goes on to the next sentence. This section should always stay the same except for the speaker, which will change from show to show. This should always be read by the secondary host. And that goes to me, T.I. I'm the secondary host. And I'm Journalism Toolkit editor Tim Inkelbarger. All right, so now we're going on to the main items. And I've just pulled out a few items from a search that I did on Gemini. So these are real news items, but these are just examples, basically. So Edward Murrow reads the second one, or first one, I read the second one, and we go back and forth throughout the script. All right, so this is the example that I'm giving this gem to use. Right, so now that we're done through all of the items in the script, I give it another instruction. It says, this section should always stay the same, except for the speaker, which will change from show to show. This should always be read by the main host. So this is the sort of the ending of the podcast, and it's EM, Edward Murrow, and that will do it for today's episode of AI Tech News. Subscribe on blah, 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 right? And then the final sentence is read by the secondary host. And I give it the instruction, this section should always stay the same except for the speaker, which will change from show to show. The reason I say that part is because we always end the show with, and I'm Tim Inkelbarger, have a great day. So that's never going to change. It's always going to be the same for every show. So I don't want it to ever change. And it's always read by the secondary host, which is me, okay? So these are all the instructions. And I'm going to include this in a link in the description that you can copy and paste and create your own sort of script organizer. But I really, really highly advise you to just go in and play around with gems and create a list of instructions of things that you wanted to do. So let's give it a shot and try it out. So we'll save out of this, of here, and we'll go to the start the chat. You can always find it over here. It's Script Organizer. And so what I'm going to do is, the way I've given it, the instructions that I've given it, I always have to give the names of the hosts and their titles. So let's come up with a couple of fake names. And we'll say this: today's hosts are New York Times editor Tim Inkelbarger and Washington Post editor Homer Simpson. I'm on a Simpsons kick today. All right, so I found 5 tech news items from off the internet these are just the first few sentences of these stories, which is kind of how we do it in our podcast. So I'm just going to drop those in, word for word, line by line, paste them in, and hit go. And let's see. All right, and it didn't take very long. It starts off with 3 sentences. Intel is pushing data center performance forward. OpenAI has reportedly acquired Jony Ive's design startup, and a decentralized exchange has suffered a major security breach. And then I say the second line, welcome to AI Tech News, your quick look at the top stories from across the internet. I'm New York Times editor Tim Inkelbarger. And the second person is Homer Simpson, so HS, and I'm Washington Post editor Homer Simpson. And then it goes into the script. So I'm the first person to speak. I get the first item. Homer does the second one. We go back and forth like this till we reach the end, which is the same every week. And that'll do it for today's episode of AI Tech News. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or more, blah, blah, blah. I'm Tim Inkelbarger. And then Homer says, and I'm Homer Simpson. Have a great day. It did exactly what we wanted it to do. And all we had to do was put in the names, the titles of the 2 hosts, and drop in all of the items. And we've got our script. So this is going to save me a lot of time moving forward. It usually takes maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes, something to put this together. Now, really, all I have to do is go in and make sure that, the copy editing is right and everything makes sense. And I'll probably end up rewriting these intros as well, but maybe I'll come up with some good ideas that I'll like to use in there too. So that's pretty much it. I highly encourage you to check out Gems. You can write all kinds of instructions and just play with it and tweak it. And that's it. Thanks a lot for checking out the podcast. Subscribe to the channel. Like the podcast. I'm trying to get as many followers as I can. I'm just starting this up, and this is the 6th episode, so we'll have more to come. Check.